Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the anatomical blueprint of the liver. It's truly one of the most remarkable organs in the body, and its design, well, it holds the secret to an almost superhuman ability.
So let's kick things off with a fact that honestly sounds like something straight out of science fiction. Surgeons can remove a massive portion of a person's liver. We're talking up to 70%. And not only will that person survive, but the organ will actually grow back. I mean, how on earth is that even possible?
And the answer? Well, it's not magic. It's actually a masterpiece of biological engineering. The whole secret to the liver's incredible resilience and its surgeon's ability to perform these amazing operations lies in its unique modular construction.
All right, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll look at the liver's outer shell. Then, we'll map out its internal neighborhoods. After that, we'll trace the vascular highways that draw those boundary lines, check out some really unique features, and finally, we'll see how radiologists actually read this blueprint in a real live patient.
Okay, first up, the external anatomy. We're going to start with the liver's protective covering, and, just as importantly, the few critical spots where that covering is missing.
So most of the liver is all wrapped up in this slick protective membrane called the visceral peritoneum. But, and this is a big but, there are key exceptions. The most famous one is called the bare area. Now, because it's not covered, an injury there won't bleed into the main abdominal cavity like you'd expect. Instead, it can cause a really dangerous bleed behind the abdominal lining. That's a retroperitoneal bleed, and trust me, that is way harder to detect and manage.
Okay, so we've seen the outside. Now let's move inside and see how this amazing organ is put together. This is where you can really see the genius of the liver's design.
The key concept we need to understand is the Couinaud system. This system basically tells us to forget the old-school idea of just a simple left and right lobe. Instead, it maps the liver based on function. The best way to think about it is that each segment is its own little self-sufficient neighborhood. It's got its own plumbing, its own blood supply coming in and going out, the whole shebang.
So what's the magic number to remember? It's 8. The liver is made of 8 of these independent segments. This is the secret we were talking about right at the beginning. It's the reason a surgeon can remove one, or even several, without shutting down all the others.
Okay, so if these segments are like neighborhoods, what draws the property lines? It's not walls or fences. Nope, the map of the liver is actually drawn by its major blood vessels.
Here's a great way to picture this. Think of a city grid. You've got the 3 main hepatic veins, and they're like these big avenues running vertically, north to south, separating the different neighborhoods. Then, you've got the massive portal vein cutting right across them like a main street, running horizontally and dividing the entire city into upper and lower districts.
These vascular highways create the precise borders. As you can see here, each hepatic vein acts like a wall, separating specific groups of segments from each other. And then, slicing across all of them, you have that portal vein, which carves the whole liver into an upper level and a lower level. It's this incredible 3D grid that gives surgeons their roadmap.
All right, we've got the main map down, but now let's get into some of the quirks, the anatomical VIPs, and the common variations. For a surgeon or a radiologist, knowing these details isn't just interesting, it is absolutely critical.
So, segment 1, also known as the caudate lobe. This guy is the liver's VIP. It just doesn't play by the same rules as the others. It has its own private drainage system that goes directly into the body's main vein, the inferior vena cava. And it gets a dual blood supply from both the right and left systems. This special setup makes it incredibly tough. In diseases that block up the main hepatic veins, the caudate lobe is often spared and can even get bigger to pick up the slack. Now, here is a perfect example of how a simple anatomical fact can explain a really complex disease. The right portal vein just has a longer journey to travel inside the liver compared to the left one. And that one little detail makes it more vulnerable to diseases that cause scarring or fibrosis. It's a classic case of how the form of something dictates its function, and in this case, its dysfunction.
But of course, anatomy doesn't always read the textbook, right? These are 2 of the most common variations that surgeons run into. They might plan a whole surgery expecting an artery to be in one spot, only to get in there and find it's branching off a completely different vessel. Or they might find a bile duct taking an unexpected detour. Knowing about these common curveballs is absolutely crucial for a safe operation.
Let's move on to our final section and see how we can actually visualize all this complex anatomy. How in the world do radiologists read this blueprint inside a living, breathing person?
You know, radiologists use these really clever shortcuts to read these grayscale images.
On an MRI, for instance, different tissues have different signal intensities. They know the spleen, which is basically a bag of blood, will show up bright on a T2 image because T2 highlights water. But the liver, which is packed with proteins and enzymes, shows up brighter on a different setting called T1. It's these simple rules of thumb that help a radiologist quickly get their bearings inside the abdomen.
And on ultrasound, it's all about recognizing patterns or signs. They're kind of like constellations for radiologists. You've got the famous Mickey Mouse sign at the entrance to the liver, the seagull sign where a major artery branches, and the nutcracker phenomenon where a vein gets squeezed. These are all visual shortcuts that instantly identify key anatomical relationships.
Let's break down the most famous one. When a radiologist puts an ultrasound probe over the gateway to the liver, the porta hepatis, this pattern pops up. You see that big, round portal vein that forms Mickey's face, and then you have the smaller common bile duct and hepatic arteries sitting on either side, just like two little ears. It's a super simple, memorable pattern that instantly identifies three absolutely critical structures.
So, the liver's blueprint isn't just about one organ. It reveals this incredible principle of modular design that allows for unbelievable resilience and regeneration. And it really leaves you with the final thought. If the liver is built with this much elegant complexity, what other amazing secrets are just waiting to be discovered in the blueprints of the rest of our body?